Hello friends and welcome back. Friends, I welcome you all to this video, and in this video we are going to talk about barriers to communication. Already we have seen three barriers or three types of barriers to communication. As we are discussing about barriers to communication in this video, already we have been talked about three different types of barriers to communication, and those three different types of barriers to communications are physical barriers. Already we have discussed in a brief manner. Mechanical barriers also we have discussed, and the last one which was discussed in a brief manner was semantic barrier. Now we are going for the last three types of barriers in a brief manner again. That is number 4, psychological barrier. Name reflects everything. So here there are certain psychological barriers, and because of those barriers we face some problems, we face some difficulties in the process of communication. Psychological barriers means what? Psychological barriers means what? The barriers which are based on the psychology of the receiver, psychology of the speaker. So psychology is fixed. See, we cannot change the psychology of anyone else. There are certain psychologies which are already fixed in our mind. Whenever we go for any activity, our psychological mind is always set. So that sort of barrier is called as what? Psychological barrier. When we go for psychological barrier, sometimes our mentality is not good. Suppose we have some negative mentality about the speaker, about the audience, about the concept, about the institution, it becomes psychological barrier. We take care of this kind of barrier whenever we go for this. Basically, we people have to go with such kind of psychological barriers at the time of going for the presentation, but those barriers should be removed from the process of communication, and this is called as psychological barrier. There are a number of psychological barriers which we are going to see one by one, and we are going to highlight how are they and how they are removed from the process of communication. After that, one more is there, that is organizational barrier. Organizational barriers means what? In an organization, whenever we work in the organization in a team, there are certain types of organizational barriers that we face. What are they and how they affect on the process of communication? That is also we are going to discuss. So see, as far as these organizational barriers are concerned, there are certain things that we come across in the process of organizational barrier. So see, as far as this organizational barriers are concerned, certain things are there, and those are the sometimes difficulties in the process of communication. So whatever rules and regulations made by the organization, whatever is the status of communication, and whatever policies are made by the organization, those are also sometimes they are the barriers. If employees are not aware with those rules and regulations, status, and the structure of the organization, it becomes a barrier in the process of communication. So before going for the communication, every speaker and every audience and the sender and the receiver has to go through such kind of things about the structure, about the rules and regulation, about the policies of the organization. And if they go through that, there will not be any sort of barrier. And this kind of barriers which are related and associated with the organizations are called as organizational barriers. And the last barrier, or the last type of barrier that we are going to see in this video, that is cultural barrier. See, in India, we say that India is a country where we can see variety of cultures. Okay, see, in Maharashtra different culture we have, in Karnataka we have different sort of culture. If you take any state, if you take an example of any state, they have their different culture, they have their customs, they have their own traditions, and this kind of custom, tradition, and the culture of every society and every religion has an impact on the process of communication. See, language is also important. See, when we can say like that, language changes after 30 kilometers or every 30 kilometers. So see, whatever language we speak in Baramati is different than the Pune. Whatever language we speak in Pune, that is also different than the Mumbai. So see, this is whatever languages we are speaking in India, we speak, I think according to the constitution report, we speak 22 languages, and actually there are more than 200 languages that we speak in India. Those are not registered, but only 22 languages are registered. So as far as this language cultural barriers is concerned, Culture is also different, and whenever we go for the process of communication, we need to take care of culture also, and cultural barriers also. So see, there is huge amount of talks which are available on cultural barriers, but we are not here to talk on so many things. We are going to say this cultural barriers in a detailed manner. Just I want to give you the idea how this cultural barrier affects on the process of communication. So friend, so see, if two people of two different cultures come in the process of communication, definitely they should have to understand each other, they have to know each other, and they have to start their communication. If they don't do so, definitely they will face some problem, they will have some issues, and this is what they will face one barrier called cultural barrier. So these are the things which we have seen for the barriers. So in this last two videos, we have seen, or we have been talked about barriers to communication, and those barriers to communications are, once again I repeat, physical barriers. There are six basically. First one is physical barriers, second one mechanical barriers, third one semantic barriers, fourth one psychological barriers, fifth one organizational barriers, and the last one cultural barriers. So these are the types of barriers which we have seen in a brief manner. See, we are going to see all these types of six barriers in a precise manner in upcoming videos. We want one video for one barrier. So friends, only this much for barriers to communication, and only this much for topic number one. So far we are going to see the last two bits of this topic number one in upcoming days. Till then, stay connected, stay tuned. Thank you.